Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, David. While the home fans almost certainly went home disappointed tonight, I thought if you're a hockey fan, you're admitting that that was a well-played game by both sides tonight.
It had not quite playoff intensity because the hitting wasn't there, but in terms of defensive structure and defensive discipline from both teams, it was a really good game.
Yeah.
I didn't, usually I'm fuming. I'm completely honest because I go over the shots, right? And this year there's been so many mental mistakes on shots against. And this one, there was one on the first shift by Connor McDavid. He did the typical thing that he does, which is he went to a player who was already covered, and a player walked into the slot, but that player hit Emberson with the shot. Emberson blocked it. So that was the only kind of really glaring faux pas that I saw in defense. And other than that, this whole team, and we'll get into this in the discussion, but it was a stifling defensive effort by the Wild and by the Oilers. Kurt, the grade A shots were 11-7 for the Wild, and the subset of 5 alarm shots were 4-2 for the Wild. So this was one of the lowest event games of the year. There was good shots, but mainly from the outside. And many of the Wild shots, grade A shots, came right at the end on the power play. They had on their power play in the third period, they had 4 of their grade A shots. So other than that, the game was really quite even.
Well, and to speak to your comments on defensive structure in the Cult of Hockey game grades, which are up now at the Cult of Hockey site, the grades on the defensemen ranged from a low of a 5 to a high of an 8. I thought all 6 D-men were more than solid, and a few of them were actually, I think, were excellent tonight.
Did you give Ekholm an 8?
Ekholm got a 7. I graded Bouchard out an 8 because I just thought he was exceptional with the puck tonight.
He was, man. He was on a high. He was walking the high wire.
Yeah. You got when that player plays like that, I think you got to grade him, right? Because he was just exceptional with the puck. But Ekholm got a 7. Nurse got a 7. I thought both Kulak and Regula were fine, and even Emberson, I thought, held his own. Regula had 2 shot blocks and a really good defensive stick in the first period. And was one of the better defensive efforts I've seen him have in a while. So I had no complaints with how the blue line played tonight.
Nurse was good. I've been critical of him, but that was a really good game from Darnell Nurse. God, I love it when he plays within himself and just keeps it simple and plays like that.
Well, there were 2 specific plays I'll point out. One on Hartman in the second period, and then he just absolutely threw a blanket over Eriksson Ek late in the second period. 2 really good defensive plays and hard plays to make, and he made them look easy, but they weren't.
He did a good job of disguising his hold on Matt Boldy too. I had to watch that 2 or 3 times to think, oh yeah, the ref is right to call on that penalty. He did grab him. All right, but it stopped a grade A shot, so I didn't mind that. Okay, Kurt. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. What's your good thingamundo?
Well, my good thingamundo is the third line by the Edmonton Oilers. I think we're seeing that when Chris Knobloch can organize his lineup like this, just how effective they are. On some nights, that third line with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in between Adam Henrique and Matthias Janmark will just be a really solid, defensively conscious line that you can count on to, at the worst, saw off with their opposition. But tonight what we saw is because Minnesota matched so hard against the Oilers' top 2 lines that it gave the Oilers' third unit a whole bunch of chances, and all 3 of them were terrific. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in particular, who I scored him a 7 tonight. You know what? At the end of the night, I just thought he was excellent. Adam Henrique, thought he had an excellent game. Adam Henrique, get this, according to Natural Stat Trick, 5-on-5, Adam Henrique's CF was 18-3, 86%. 5-on-5, and Janmark didn't have a shot on net, but I thought was really effective, created a lot. That shift of his on the PK was just, you could hear the whole crowd applauding as he took the puck up the ice and circled around and took it back again. It was just kind of dumb luck that third line didn't score tonight. No, they didn't, and so those guys don't grade 8s or 9s, because offense counts when you're a forward. But boy, they were good. They did create, and they didn't give up much at all. 5-on-5, and the PK was good too. So that third line, and let's say you bump Janmark down to the fourth line when Jack Roslovic is back. Well, I'll take Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Adam Henrique, and Jack Roslovic very much. Not that I think you need to keep Roslovic on the third line, but if you made that simple substitution, well then holy crap, you've got three pretty good lines. So I thought they were excellent tonight, and that's why they were my good thing.
Yeah. I suspect Mangiapane or Podkolzin would drop down, and then Roslovic would move up.
Or even, I think maybe even more likely Savoy. But I agree with you. But still, if we look at that as a top 9 unit, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yes. So when it comes to grade A shots, Nugent-Hopkins and Henrique have both been, and I kind of I pool them with the other centers because they're mainly centers. Mm-hmm. Although Nugent's probably about half and half, but they've been the best defensive centers on the team this year, considerably better than Draisaitl and McDavid. They are really shutting it down in a really impressive way. And when it comes to the wingers, Matthias Janmark has been the best winger on defense.
Doesn't surprise me.
He had been he in his first year again, he had been like out of this world good on defense, and then he trended down the last couple of years. But he's kind of back this year. His defense has been really strong, and as soon as I saw that line together, I thought, oh God, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we talked about this, right?
He just become such a great defensive player.
Yes.
Like really effective. And Henrique has been since the day he came here, like he's an older player.
They're both so smart, hey?
And Janmark, again, has that in his history here where he was just out of this world good. He's not that old where he can't be out of this world good on defense again. Mm-hmm. And since he's come back from injury, he's been that. So, Kurt, my good thing is this is the second good defensive game in a row. And I actually thought after the Seattle game that they would continue with this. I think that they're sick of playing crappy. They're sick of the self-recrimination. As much as the criticism from everybody else probably stings, when you have like the worst save percentage in the league and one of the highest goals against in the league, you've got to think about it and take responsibility. And I think we saw that definitely against Seattle, and we saw it tonight. This was an outstanding defensive effort. As I mentioned, like there was hardly any of the kind of mental mistakes. Let's say in previous games there was the one I pointed out for McDavid tonight. In previous games, Kurt, there'd be 10 to 15 similar kind of mental mistakes by players.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. There was so many. And this time, they were back checking smartly. They were covering the slot. They weren't getting 3-man below the goal line in the offensive zone. They weren't getting two defensemen behind the goal line in the defensive zone with nobody covering the slot. They weren't doing the typical lazy, stupid things that have got them in this position where they're out of a playoff spot right now. They're outside looking in. So if they keep this up, and I think they will, I think that they're sick of losing and they're sick of playing terribly on defense. They're going to be a good team in the next little while, and I'm looking forward to seeing it because this team can put together months of strong defensive play in a row, certainly weeks of it, and in the playoffs we've seen months of it. So in many ways I'm encouraged by the game. In some ways I'm not, and we'll get to that, but I was encouraged by this second in a row.
Yeah, a couple things bouncing off your comments. While I felt really good about the Seattle game, they're a shadow of the offensive team that the Minnesota Wild are. And so while I gave them full grades for playing well defensively against Seattle, this is a much tougher team to defend against. And they held up just as strong against Minnesota as they did against Seattle, really. If you think about it, the Oilers kept Kaprizov and Boldy to no points and 3 shots. That's okay. Right? If you go into this game saying, hey, if Boldy and Kaprizov only get 3 shots and don't get a point, are you going to win? Most times you're going to say yes, right? Like, they shut down Minnesota's best players and still lost.
Indeed. Yeah, they weren't. Kaprizov had one kind of wide open look from the slot and he missed the net. Other than that, yeah, like he wasn't that dangerous. So that is a good job. And this defense came in, Kurt, just very highly rated, highly ranked. And if they get it together, the defensemen, right? Like this is a good group of defensemen, I think. Mm-hmm. They need help from the forwards though too, right? Like I can't count how many analysts I've heard in the last few days since the Seattle game who've pointed out what we pointed out that night as well. They finally kept the third man high in the offensive zone and helped out the defenseman. It makes all the difference in the world. Like
and low in the defensive zone, right? There's been that adjustment, and I don't think it's a systematic change. I think the players are just playing the system better.
Yes, these are basic things in hockey, right? And they just were so keen on scoring goals because this is a team full of players like that they forgot their other main function, which is to defend like crazy. Kurt, what is your bad thingy dingy?
Well, the fact that they didn't score. I mean, that's the thing. People will criticize Stuart Skinner for that goal tonight, and we can talk about that. But at the end of the day, you're not going to win if you don't score a goal. So there's nobody on earth who should be putting this loss on Stuart Skinner because the offense wasn't there, right? But my specific bad thing is the power play because I think it's easy to argue that that's where the Oilers lost this game. Yeah. They had 2 opportunities with the man advantage and couldn't bury on either one of them. And when you have one of the top, 3-4 power plays in the league, not only do you expect you'll score on one of those, you have to score on one of those, right? At some point, your best players, and I don't criticize our very best players very often for their offensive play. But on a night like this, where your goaltender's giving you a puncher's chance and your defense is really stingy, you got to bear down and score one. And they couldn't tonight. So my rare criticism goes to the much vaunted Oilers power play that didn't get the job done. Hyman
sure came close, man. I think it was Draisaitl who put it under a defenseman across the crease, and Hyman makes a quick move backhand to forehand, and he just couldn't raise it over a sprawling Wallsted's pad. And maybe this is the risk, like maybe he does seem a little bit rusty shooting. I'm going to say, we'll see. But maybe he would have elevated and scored there. But that was that was the best chance of the night. And if he had scored there, like that power play was rocking. Yeah, and Bouchard was part of it. Although he was just walking that high wire.
He was dangling,
he
man.
A couple points tonight with the way he was playing, and he didn't get it. So yeah, they just it was the second power play that really got nothing going on. And that was frustrating to watch. Like they just couldn't get in.
Yeah, they had no shots on the second power play.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. Yeah. So,
well, you mentioned Hyman. One of my comments in the Hyman paragraph in the Cult of Hockey Game Grades is requisite work ethic and all around it, but looks to be missing his touch near the net.
Yeah, so this is the concern, right? And he raised it himself. Like shooting is going to be the major challenge. He said it. So I've been watching for that, and so far unfortunately I would concur, hope to be proven wrong, because but that's a serious injury that he got, and it might take him a while to get back that dexterity that he previously had, if he ever gets it back, because again, it was a big injury. Yeah, okay. I was mad, Kurt, because there was a play in the right near the end where McDavid kind of wheeled out into the slot and put it into the low slot, and Hyman was there. The guy grabbed his stick. Like he had his Hyman stick, and he
Yes.
couldn't. And Louis mentioned it. Louis DeBrusk mentioned it. Like Hyman couldn't get his stick on the ice. Well, he couldn't get his stick on the ice because he was being fouled.
Somebody
He
else
was
was
being
holding
held,
it. Yeah.
and it was as bad as it was. No, it was as every bit as bad as Mrs.
Uh,
Boldy, but they didn't call it, and I was really mad at it. But then about 2 minutes later, someone put the stick right on Boldy in the slot, so he couldn't get off a shot. So I thought, oh well, I'm not going to get too irate about this on the podcast because it went both ways in fairly quick succession there.
You mentioned Bouchard. I don't want it to go by without mentioning
Go ahead.
the two dangles at the point. The
Oh yeah.
one, which was on Johansson in the second period, he just undressed him, like, and then the inside out deke in the third period off the blue line. That was Kaprasov, the top paid player in the NHL, that he waltzed around. So Evan had it going on tonight, and I know we're in the bad things section, but I want to make sure those two plays don't get missed.
Okay, my bad thing is the obvious thing, and it got a lot of discussion online, of course, because this player's been in the crosshairs of Oilers fans, not literally, just verbally, in case figuratively, I guess, in case people are going to get riled up about that. Um, Stuart Skinner's the one goal against, and I know that there was a bit of a flyby screen. There was a flyby screen, but I think the one angle that was shown on television was misleading in that regard. And that when we saw the play the first time we saw it correctly, that yeah, there was a flyby screen, but he was able to see the shot, and it was from far enough out. You know, essentially between the top of the faceoff circles and the blue line, that he should have had it. And Wallstedt, and it's the kind of save Stuart Skinner almost always does have, which is the other point. He almost always makes that save, screen or no screen. It's the kind of save NHL goalies make all the time, and he didn't make it. And otherwise in this game, he was really good. He made every other save. Just so happens the other goalie was one save better, and it just so happens that the one save probably, almost certainly, should have been stopped. And Skinner himself, I feel, would recognize that and not be happy with that goal against.
Well, I think we should talk about it a little bit because, as I know you're aware, the Edmonton Oilers broadcast crew saw that high screen and made a point of talking about that as a factor. I also happen to be watching the Minnesota Wild feed because I like to watch the visitors feed whenever I can because you just get a different perspective. When you roll back the tape, they described it almost exactly the same way that Jack and Louis did. So they both saw it that way. Scoring the game, I went back and watched that video over and over and again. The problem is the video take that you're not a fan of, David, is the one that's made available on the game page. So it's
Yes.
the replay that I have to go by. So the one comment I'm left to make on it is, and this is dangerous territory because now I'm judging body language. But when I watch that play for about the fifth or sixth time, the way I see Stuart Skinner react to that puck, which was all of a sudden like almost surprise, told me I don't think he saw that puck until the last millisecond, which suggests to me that that high screen was more effective than you maybe think it was. But I'm reading a lot into that. I have one angle live, I have a different angle on replay, and I'm looking at how the goaltender reacts, and I'm making assumptions. At the end of the day, and I think you'll agree with this, even if we both agreed, yeah, that's just a puck Stuart Skinner has to stop, the Oilers didn't score.
They didn't score. They could have helped out a goalie there.
Yep.
He only let in the one goal. He gave his team a chance to win,
He did.
and he made some really good saves.
That deflection off Sturm in the third period, that was a tough damn save, man. That was going in.
I mean, by all rights, they should have scored like 2 or 3 goals, the Wild. Like expected goals were probably between 2 and 3. And for the Oilers, probably about 1. So this is probably a 2-1 game for the Wild.
Yeah.
Because the goalies were so good, it was 1-0. And Stuart Skinner was so good. And yeah, it's just a tough. it's interesting because it's not the kind of it's the kind of stop he regularly makes
Mm.
because he's a shot blocker and he gets in the way of those kinds of
Yeah.
shots. So
There may be some debate on how I graded him tonight because I graded him a 7. I'm not going to grade, and it's a 1-0 game, right? Normally a goaltender in a 1-0 game might get an 8 or even a 9. I mean, he made, what was it, 33 shots were 33-24, right? So he made 32 saves. But at the end of, no, sorry, that's not right because it was 33-24 Edmonton were the shots. But
23 saves.
yeah. But yeah,
I think your grade's correct, Kurt.
I think it's fair, right?
Because what you do is like there was a flyby screen, and again, I think both broadcast teams probably going off that what I think is a misleading replay played it up a bit, but nonetheless, he just let in one goal, and I try to go by kind of roughly expected goals. And is he above how much above it or below it is the goalie, and he's below it in a fairly considerable way here. So the expected goals he had a good game with one, and if he had made that save, it would have been 0-0, and he would have had like a 10. He might have had a 9 or a 10 in that game.
Yeah, like his save percentage was .958. How do you not win with a .958 save percentage?
So yeah, that's just fair. I think that's fair. Like people make mistakes. It doesn't define their whole game, one mistake, and it shouldn't.
Well, like Darnell Nurse had a turnover up the middle through the neutral zone in the first period, but that didn't stop Darnell Nurse from having what we both thought was a really good game. Singular mistakes do not a game make all the time, right?
Same with McDavid. He allowed that pass early on right into the slot, and the guy comes in there right into the heart of in the first 2 minutes of the game, and rings a shot that Emberson gets in the way of. If maybe doesn't, maybe that was in the net.
Yep,
so that was a terrible mistake, but no one even thinks about it because it didn't end up even with a grade A shot. But it could have been terrible.
It was a consequential play, right? Yeah.
Yes. So that's hockey. It's hard to you have to be very careful and try to be thorough in your judgments, and you do your best. And I think I would have given him a 7 or a 6. I'm not sure.
And you know what? I started off a 6 and moved it to a 7 at the last minute. So you and I are within a half a point. I'll take it.
I think you're right. I think it was a good game. I think that's fair. Yeah. And I think people will be mad at you as well.
All right. Well, I'm kind of expecting that.
That's the whole reason to grade the games.
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the fun, right?
The most common comment we get from people, hey, you didn't watch the same game I watched. No, you didn't.
we try to get it right, but we don't.
We do.
We're imperfect. That's for darn sure. All right, Kurt, what is your number?
My number is 87. You know what? There's been a lot of debate over the effectiveness of Andrew Mangiapane since he came to Edmonton. And there's a lot of people are saying, boy, we brought in 2 smaller forwards last year. They did nothing. We bring in this smaller forward. He's done nothing. And I think that's fair criticism. But you know what? Andrew Mangiapane tonight, alongside Leon Draisaitl and Vasily Podkolzin for most of the game. Chris shuffled the lines in the last 10 minutes or so, was really effective. And Mangiapane, I thought, had his best night with the puck on his stick. And if you go by the fancy stats at Natural Stat Trick, get this, Andrew Mangiapane's 5v5 CF, 20-3. 87%, which is the highest percentage I've seen for an Edmonton Oiler this season.
He's suffering from the same thing that Victor Arvidsson did last year, in that he's playing with a good line mate, and he's actually playing really solid defensive hockey. Other than Janmark, I think the 2 best wingers on the Oilers defensively have been Hyman and Mangiapane. Mangiapane doesn't... You don't notice him on defense because he doesn't make glaring mistakes and he's always in position, but he also isn't physical. Like he's not a physical player.
No.
And this is being held against him, especially on the attack where people would wish he would dig for pucks more, take it to the hard areas a bit more, go
more
to
like
the net
Savoy does.
harder. These are all fair criticisms of him.
Yeah.
But he is a solid defensive hockey player, and I think in the end he will end up on the third line for the Oilers, where he probably belongs at this point in his career. He just doesn't seem to have the offensive edge anymore to be in the top six. But he's a solid third line checking player, and in the playoffs, I think what you tend to see with the veteran playoffs players is they crank up the physicality. I mean, we saw that in with so many Oilers last year, and I think I think he'll come through in the playoffs. They got to get there, of course,
Yep.
which is starting to. All right, it's a little early to worry about that, considering how tight everybody's bunched.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it's still close. If you go on a 3-game winning streak here, you could be in first place.
So what frustrated me in my numbers have to do with this, Kurt, is the big guys weren't getting it done. They were really being checked effectively by very, very smart and effective Minnesota Wild team play and individual play. It would have been nice to get a goal from somebody else tonight. And I'm looking at you, Trent Frederick, who's got 2 goals all year, and I'm looking at
For
you.
a minute, you were looking at me.
Not tonight, Kurt. I'm looking at you, Matt Savoy, who's got 3 goals. And I know people are excited about Matt Savoy, and he does a lot of good things in a game. He's got to score. If he's going to play in the top 6, he's not a top 6 player right now. He's not scoring. He has got to score. He's not scoring. Frederick, he's not scoring. He's not close to scoring. I mean, so I'm tracking grade A shots per game, how many each guy gets. So the leader on the team is McDavid with 2.4 per game this year, 2.4 grade A shots off his stick every game. Draisaitl's next at 1.9 per game. Last year, Draisaitl was at 2.6 per game when he was on a slightly higher trajectory for scoring. Jack Roslovic is at 1.7, so just a little bit behind. And man, as he missed, and this is what we feared, right? Yep. Who's going to score with Roslovic out? Nugent Hopkins, same as last year. Last year he was at 1.1 per game. This year he's at 1. Podkolzin's at 1 per game. Mangiapane 0.9. Henrique 0.8. So even though Henrique hasn't scored, he's only got 2 goals. You'd expect him to have a couple more maybe. The problem with Frederick and Savoy is they're really not getting a lot of grade A shots, period. They're both getting 0.6 per game.
Not getting their looks, right?
And they're playing a lot. Like these are 2 players who are playing a lot and they're getting 0.6 per game. Tomasek, he did play the power play, so he got a lot of them there, was getting 0.7. But these guys are playing a lot. They should be up at 1 grade A shot per game, almost double what they are now. They've got to find a way to get shots on net. And because Savoy is a solid defensive player, he's okay on the wing. He's a little overreactive to the puck, like Podkolzin is, like McDavid is. But he's pretty solid on defense. He's pretty solid on the PK. Frederick has been their worst defensive winger. He's not close to scoring. He's not scoring and he's not close. He hasn't been a big physical force. Like he's hitting, but can you remember his hits? Like they're not like Clattenburg's hits. When Clattenburg hit that guy in the first Middleton, that was one of the highlights of the game. He took on one of their biggest guys and he nailed him and he knocked him off his feet. Has Frederick done that all year? No. It is time to bench Trent Frederick. He needs to have that message sent. Buddy, this is not close. You are not close to good enough right now. And you can do better, and you need to think about it. And I think that it might be wise to send Tomasek down, and call up a couple players. Like Quinn Hudson is killing it. He's got, let me just see here, 10 goals, I think, and 18 points.
That whole first line, hey, with Szymanski and Howard is really good.
10 goals and 9 assists in 18 games. Ike Howard has 7 points in 5 games.
Where's Szymanski?
Robbie Yarventi, 13 points, 8 goals in 14 games. So I think Hudson should be called up at this point. He's 23 years old. He's he played a lot of college hockey. He's 23. He's not a young kid like for an NHL player. I think he's good to go. And put him in the lineup. Take out Frederick for a while. Maybe think of calling up one of the other guys too. Depends what you're looking for. Szymanski's playing really well, but I think it's probably best if they keep him down there. But he's been playing really well.
Yeah. He's on that first line, right?
Yeah, it injected some life when they brought in Clattenburg. Let's do it again. Let's try that again. And let's send some messages to some of the veteran players. You got to do better. You need to do more. And until you do, you'll be sitting.
So I think your criticism's fair. I'm going to redirect some of it. There's an old thing in hockey. Sometimes you say, so-and-so forgot what kind of a hockey player he is. And I think back to when my brother was a very good junior hockey player, and he played on a line with a fellow named Bill Swarbrick, who was an American from Iowa who came up to Canada to play. And Billy was a rough and tumble, the best fighter in the league, like he'd take on anybody. And what they did was they put this Bill Swarbrick fellow up in a line with my brother and his centerman. And this line was the best line in the league. And they won the scoring race. My brother set the league record for goals in the season that year in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And this Bill Swarbrick was on the wing. By next season, Bill wouldn't fight anymore because Bill's a hockey player. Well, what got Bill to that position was what he was a really good fighter. And there was a comment made by somebody at the time, which was he forgot what kind of a hockey player he was. And I think if you go back to the start of the year, when Chris Knobloch put Trent Frederick up in the first line, I wonder if that caused Trent Frederick to forget what kind of a hockey player he was. And now he's desperately trying to remember that again.
Yeah, the expectation might have been set by Knobloch, like it might have been a bad idea. I'll go to the old quote from Don Cherry, which is, "A crusher who becomes a rusher soon becomes an usher."
When Don was good, he was good, wasn't he? Yeah.
I don't have it in for any Oilers player. I want Trent Frederick to succeed. Like, he's signed for 8 years.
Yeah, I know you do.
We want all of these. We're cheering for all of them. And pretty much like on some level equally, because I just want the team to succeed. Mm. I'm a fan. I'm not looking for bad things. I want them all to do. I want them to win 9-0 every night.
Yeah.
So this isn't anything about Frederick. It's just that since he's come, to Edmonton, he's been their worst forward, and it's starting to get old. And I'm sorry, but if it's injury, give him time to heal. If it's a psychological thing, give him time to rethink his game. But this isn't working, what they're doing, so try something else.
My devil's advocate to that is, for a player that's clearly struggling with his confidence, sitting his ass in the press box isn't going to improve that.
Yeah, it's just hard to know, right? You have to know the player.
And again, I think your criticism's fair. Yes. But my rebuttal is, how is that going to fix him, right?
Well, there's another one of these old sayings. Some people need a pat on the back. Some people need a kick in the ass. So what is he? We don't know what he is. And
part of that, right, is we don't see what goes on behind the scenes either. We don't know what kind of a guy he is in the dressing room. We don't really know what his practice habits are. And while some fans like to poo-poo that stuff, coaches put a lot into that. So for all we know, Fredericks is a great guy in the room, and he's busting his ass in practice, and it's just not coming for him. Well, if that's the case, sitting him down is not going to help. It would have the reverse effect. But now I'm assessing this the same way I was assessing the high screen by Stuart Skinner. I'm making suppositions here, and I probably ought not.
I don't think David Tomasek likes being sat in the press box either.
Sure he doesn't.
So what crystallized this for me was I was listening to an interview with Peter DeBoer, who is a fantastic coach. Like, whatever you want to say, he's been to the finals. What is it? 6 times in the last the conference finals 6 times in the last 7 years. Is that right?
Don't let him catch your goaltenders.
Yeah, might be a little little callous, but
Yeah.
he made a point, like, because they were asking him about this, like, you have a player that you really like, and you're rooting for, and you want to see him do well, and he's a good teammate and all this stuff. Like, what do you do when, like, and DeBoer's point is, like, it's, as a coach, you just simplify it, and you have to think of one thing: what is the roster I can ice tonight that has the best chance of winning? That's all I care about. And I think David Tomasic, if he was in the lineup tonight, he might have scored. And I don't think Trent Frederick was going to score. So, so that's what it comes down to. I think Quinn Hudson, you call him up, he might score. And I don't think Frederick's going to score right now. He's had a lot of chances to get it. He's not even close. So now you lose physicality with Frederick. Yes, like Quinn Hudson's a smaller guy and Frederick's a bigger guy. But with Clattenburg on the team, he is playing that role of agitator. You've got Janmark back who can hit. You got some other, I don't think you're going to lose that much in terms of physicality with Frederick out, and he's not good defensively right now either.
Problem
So
with that,
all
David, is Clattenburg played 441 tonight.
yeah, should have played more than that, man. After that hit, a few more hits like that would have been nice. Now he was fighting the puck a bit. I noticed Clattenburg on a couple of the shifts. So maybe that was taken into consideration. But anyway, that's I
Good
just
debate.
think you go back to what Scotty Bowman said. What's the job of the coach? Get the right players on the ice, and you have to have the right players in the lineup to get the right players on the ice. I just don't think I just think it's time for a different look to win the game. Final thoughts, Kurt?
Final thoughts. It would be easy to be frustrated with this game tonight, but I'm choosing to look at it in a positive light because I think this is the way this team has to play to win, to make the playoffs, and have a chance at advancing through the playoffs again. They have to play like this. These guys will score. I'm not going to stay up at night thinking, oh, Connor and Leon aren't going to score anymore. Yes, they are. I did stay up at night thinking, will these guys be able to ever keep a puck out of their net again? These last two games have encouraged me that, yeah, they actually do remember how to defend. And so the loss aside, I'm actually feeling relatively positive tonight.
We're on the same page. I just remember earlier this year, like that feeling like they can't hold a lead. They're just going to give up. They're going to give up goals, and you just knew it was going to happen because they kept making the same bonehead mistakes. I think that the other thing that the team could take from this loss was how frustrating it was to play against the Wild, and what it would be like to be that team. What it is to be that they have been that team the last two games. They have been frustrating to play against. They have been shutting down the other team. And it's not as glamorous and fun as scoring a bunch of goals, but it's how the Oilers will turn around their season and get into the playoffs and get deep into the playoffs. Because then the timely scoring does take over. And it's the only way they will succeed, Kurt. It's the only way, because which is kind of an oversimplification because I'm assuming the goals will come, right? But that is the assumption. They do have that talent. So what do they need to win? They got to bring the other thing. They got to bring that defensive play.
I have one closing thought. I want to mention the loud ovation offered to Oilers anthem singer Robert Clark at the start of the game. If you don't know, Robert Clark has been diagnosed with leukemia, and he's missed a number of games, but he was back tonight. And before he sang the anthems, there was an extended ovation from the audience for Robert as he stood at center ice. And I wanted to give our buddy Robert a stick tap tonight.
Great to see him back out there. He's such a fantastic singer, anthem singer. Way to go, Robert Clark. Kurt, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks, David. Good debate.
And thank you for listening to the podcast tonight. We have a real sense of gratitude for all the people who tune in regularly to the Cult of Hockey. I feel that we have the wisest, smartest, sanest hockey fans in the world listening to this podcast. And we are lucky and grateful to engage with such an audience.
Thank you.